again, everyone, and welcome to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. Once more, dear friends, let us go into the breach. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear friends, let us go into the breach. So we just got cut off there for a second, so we just started the show over again. So hopefully everybody will join us. So we're going to talk about a few things tonight. I think primarily, what's our theme for tonight? Liberal intolerance. And there's a lot of it going around, especially in our godforsaken state. I think you would agree. But we started the last couple shows with some, as Joe likes to say, I guess, before we go into the meat and potatoes, we're going to go into a couple of quick hits. And they're actually, a couple of the former ones have been kind of like funny or comical. These aren't funny, okay? They are quick hits. We want to talk about them. We're not going to spend an entire segment on them. But what do we got?
Well, and again, you're with the front line with Joe and Joe. We're here every Sunday at 8 o'clock. If we get cut off, please we're going to go right back into it. Sometimes we have a bad internet connection and/or Facebook kind of jerks us around. So
Zuckerberg.
So please just keep following. It's just the way, you know. We're
making it happen no matter what. So
either way, the first little follow-up is what was going on in Chicago. We covered this a few weeks ago. Last weekend, there were 29 people shot, 6 were shot fatally. This is something that is ongoing. This is something that is a result of liberal government. This is a result of the media not paying attention to it, never covered. This wasn't covered in the mainstream media. And frankly, it's a shame. This is black on black crime. These are poor people, and they are getting shot and getting killed every single weekend, and no one seems to care. And the reason why I think that's the case, it does not play into the media's narrative, and everyone chooses to ignore it. And it's a shame.
No, it's a shame. And like you said, blows up within the narrative. What are some of those things? Okay, they've taught all these people about sexual liberation, abortion, contraception. So what does that lead to? Fatherlessness, breakdown of the family. Okay, these kids have no fathers. You're not going to tell me these kids have fathers. Okay, the ones that are shooting each other. That's why they go into gangs to begin with, because that's where they find father figures. In other words, like some older guys, let's say, that are in the gangs. So that's why they join these gangs. So it's all their policies. Okay, it's a reflection of the education system. Let's say in a place in Chicago, because none of these kids are educated. They don't even, you know, it's like if they even bother to go to high school, they're not learning anything anyway. So they come out and they have nothing. They have nothing but the street. And when you have nothing but the street, and there's this whole, basically this moral and social breakdown, what happens? Death. We always call them the party of death, the Democratic Party. This is part of it. This doesn't have to do with just abortion or other things that they promote. They don't do anything about this.
Well, and this is stuff we've talked about, you know, some of these cities. We covered Los Angeles, we covered Baltimore, we've talked about Chicago in the past. We're talking about it again. Again, these are all liberally governed cities, and they're a disaster. And these are the same people who think that they could run the country.
Right.
Frankly, the proof's in the pudding. They're not bringing bread to the table.
Right.
These are people, they're getting killed every single weekend. There is a war going on in Chicago, and this is something we were talking about before we got cut off. Why don't we have the National Guard there to protect these people?
There has to be some sort of a provision.
Police can't do it.
Or as we were saying, or they're not doing it. So it's like if they're not going to do it, all right, or they can't do it, either way they have to step aside. And this is of national interest. The federal government needs to take action. Okay, this isn't some excuse to send the National Guard into a city or a state and try to usurp the power of the state. No, the power of the state of Illinois and the power of the city of Chicago has, I don't know, you can't even say it's been abused. They're not even using the power that they have, the policing power that they have to stop this. And it usually involves political correctness, okay, not wanting to tell the truth about their policies, which have failed miserably in cities all across America. You mentioned LA, you mentioned San Francisco. We told you all a million times we're from Newark. These places are a disaster. And who's it a disaster for more than anything? The people that go to work there? No, they go to work in big buildings, okay? It's the people on the street. And who are the people on the street? They're all the people that the left says they care about, primarily minorities, Black and Hispanic people in the minority communities. And who are you saving by sending in the National Guard? Black and Hispanic people in these communities who are suffering through this violence. Please. There is no excuse. No, there's no excuse. The federal government, I mean, Dick Durbin will go out of his way as a senator from Illinois to kill every unborn baby he can even imagine. All right, and he won't do nothing. He won't do anything about Chicago. Well,
they're clearly not. And like I said, last weekend, 29 people, and this is a long weekend, guaranteed. Take a look at the end of the weekend out of curiosity. See how many people got shot in Chicago. I bet you it's over 50.
We pray that it wouldn't happen, but you want to know something? The reality is you know it will. You know, as Aldo is checking in, let's give a couple shout outs. Sue says, hey, Joe and Joe. Hey, Sue.
What's that?
Vinny, others are checking in. You're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello every Sunday night at 8 p.m. We go live on Facebook. So we got another.
We had another follow-up story. Joe, we did a story on statues of women that Mayor de Blasio's wife was kind of spearheading throughout Manhattan. Joe came across a couple of them in Midtown this week. So we wanted to kind kind of talk about.
Yeah, let's recap. So evidently there was this commission, and they were supposed to talk about. They were supposed to study. Cheryl. What's her name? Cheryl McCray. McCray. Charlene McCray. De Blasio's wife. Okay. I guess the first lady of the city of New York, which is no special honor, by the way, because the city of New York is really on a fast track to all the rest of this stuff. It's already there. But she wanted statues of women. All right, and they did a poll of all the necessary people that you needed to do a poll with. I don't know what kind of commission it was. Either way, the #1 vote getter was Mother Frances Xavier Cabrini. Okay, who was 19th century?
Yeah, right? Early turn of the 20th century.
All right, turn of the 20th century. Mother Cabrini helped who? The poor and the immigrants. Okay, and she's known throughout the world.
She founded 67 organizations, hospitals, schools. You name it.
But she's not worthy to have a statue, okay? And Charlene McCray not only wanted to have did not want to put up a statue of Frances Xavier Cabrini, Mother Cabrini, all right? To my shock, by the way, because we had spoken about this a couple weeks ago, all of a sudden I'm walking diagonally across from Radio City, right in front of the UBS building. I had something to do over there, and I'm walking. I see these statues that I hadn't seen there before, and I look, and it's like, wow, there's Oprah Winfrey. Well, she's a big contributor to society. There's Nicole Kidman, okay?
What did she do?
Nothing.
I don't even know.
Nicole Kidman's never done anything except get rich as an actress and marry Tom Cruise and then divorce him. And then, okay, good thing she did go back to the Catholic Church. She left Scientology, I think. But then I see all these sets, and right in the middle is the man who thinks he's a woman. So a statue of a man who thinks he's a woman. You have an array of statues who are supposed to be women, but a real woman like Mother Cabrini doesn't merit a statue, according to Charlene McCray. But a man who thinks he's a woman, and the reason why we're recapping it and making it a quick hit, because I saw it with my own eyes, staring right in front of me. I had to restrain myself from committing a public act that would have gotten me arrested.
I just thought of this. So when they put the Christmas tree up this year, when people are going to Rockefeller Center or Radio City, that's what they're going to see.
In fairness, maybe not. They're there on full display right in the heart of Midtown. And I did ask the guy who looked like security for the building. I said, how long are these going to be here? He says about 2 months.
Oh,
so they're going to be there 2 months. They're going to broadcast this, and Charlene McCray is going to broadcast all the liberal women, Nicole Kidman, all these people, the man who thinks he's a woman, and then the statues are going to be moved.
Aldo, I love your point. Aldo basically commented about the National Guard going to Chicago. You're 100% correct. The National Guard should be in Irvington. The National Guard should be in Newark. When people are getting killed, innocent people, we have a military force. We should use them.
Right.
Because there is no reason why a country like this should permit innocent people to die. And it's politics that keep that from happening, and it's a shame.
Right.
And it's a shame.
Right. It really is. So is that our quick hits?
Yeah, those are our quick hits.
Yeah, that Mother Cabrini thing really is, it's priming me, because I know my head's going to explode, because we're talking about liberal intolerance. So Eddie checked in. Roseanne says, hey, Joe, boy, things are nuts in this country. Roseanne, you just said a mouthful. But thanks everybody for joining in. So where are we going tonight?
So we're going to go around the world, but we're going to begin in the great state of New Jersey.
Or is Tom Jones?
State.
I saw Tom Jones in concert one time in Atlantic City. This is years ago, and he's got that thick, you know, that Welsh accent. But he goes, "So I'd love to be here in New Jersey."
Well, there it is. There it is. So that's where we're going to begin. There are two bills that are on the fast track to be passed by the governor, our great governor, Mr. Murphy. I say that with some sarcasm. The bills are Assembly Bill 5508 and Senate Bill 3804. You could look them up. Basically, what these bills do is they would expand insurance coverage for abortion-inducing drugs, abortifacients, and eliminate the religious employer's exemption, which is already contained in New Jersey law. So what does that mean? It means this. If a religious employer, such as
the Catholic Church
or the Catholic Church employs a janitor, employs a secretary, employs whoever.
Hospital, schools, everything.
They would be forced, the Catholic school or the Catholic Church, or frankly, it could be a synagogue. It could be a Protestant.
We know they're not targeting synagogues. We know that this is let's just keep going, Joe. This is a direct assault on the Catholic Church. And just so to make it clear before Joe continues, okay, I said when Joe showed me this article, if it was Friday early, I would have already done it. Okay, tomorrow morning I'm calling the Archdiocese of Newark. I don't care if I get nothing done. I want to know from the Archdiocese, either the communications director or the vicar or the cardinal himself, are you going to make a statement? Because there is no way around this. Joe's right. Synagogues and others are going to be affected too. This is a direct assault on the Catholic Church in New Jersey. What Obama failed to do to the Little Sisters of the Poor, Murphy is trying to do to the Catholic Church in New Jersey.
And it's on the fast track to be passed. And they would, again, they would be forced to pay for these particular items that are against our conscience.
But what are those items?
Well, it's abortifacients, obviously. That'd be a part of the insurance coverage. But that's all I read. You said that there would also be for same-sex.
What they call now sex change operation. We're old school. We don't talk politically correct. Okay, a sex change operation, which is cosmetic surgery. They'll be forced to have to pay for that if one of their employees wants to have cosmetic surgery.
Yeah, I didn't read that.
All right, I read it.
No, I believe it.
It's part. It was a part of the article because it's a series of bills. And in one of the bills, so it's abortion in one, abortion-inducing drugs, contraception, sterilization, and if a man wants to transition to a woman or vice versa, not that that's humanly possible, because it is not.
And by the way, why? This is where Joe said in the beginning, like the left, the intolerance of the left. I don't make you go to church with me on Sunday. I don't force you. Why are you forcing your agenda down my throat? I don't believe in this. Why should my church have to provide this as a service? And this is the intolerance of these people. The people who say that they're the most tolerant people, they are absolutely not. They are the fascists.
You said that a couple weeks. You said that a couple weeks ago. It's all projection. What they accuse you of is what they are doing. While they're doing it, they said, while they employ, I would go so far as to go back, allude back to our quick hit. Okay, while they don't do anything about what's going on in the city of Chicago, and anytime somebody points it out, they call that person racist, just like they'll call Joe and I racist. Okay, but who are the racists? If you allow people to, let's say in this case, black men, because that's who it is primarily, black men shooting one another. If you allow that to happen, and you know there's a solution, and you don't do anything about it, you are the racist. That's what you are. And in this case, as Joe said, you're being the fascist. Okay, you're the one being the totalitarian. They always accuse the Catholic Church of wanting to knock down your doors and then everything. The Catholic Church imposes anything. Catholic Church doesn't impose anything on anybody. Catholic Church proposes. You could either believe it or not believe it. That's your choice, and there's consequences to not believing it. Okay, that's 2,000 years of Catholic teaching. Okay, but here's the bottom line: it's not being forced on you. In fact, it's so anti-Catholic to say that, because Catholic teaching is that religion can't be forced on you. Correct. Sincere faith is what you're called to. No, there's a sincere love and belief in God, okay, and in Jesus Christ and in His church. You can't force somebody to do that. You can't impose that on somebody. But what is Murphy doing? The tolerant one, okay? He's imposing the secular view on the Catholic Church.
And he's
wrong?
Catholic too, by the way. I'm baptized. I'm pretty sure he is.
Okay, let's say he's baptized. Let's say he even thinks about walking into a church. Cardinal Tobin needs to come out and say, make it very clear to all the priests in the state of New Jersey, or at least in the Archdiocese of Newark. No way. No way. You're not going to walk into a Catholic church. What, to mock everybody else? Just like with Dolan in New York, when Cuomo's allowed to go into St. Pat, he should be shown the door, Cuomo. You don't let that guy in. But that's what this is. It's a direct assault on all people. Again, like you mentioned, you get conservative Jews aren't going to go for this. Okay, if they're employing people, they don't want to provide this stuff. Okay, goes against their beliefs. But make no mistake, Murphy's doing this as a direct attack on the Catholic Church. Where Obama failed in the courts, okay, he's going to try to do that in New Jersey. And
in fairness, he should be allowed in. He should not be allowed to receive the Eucharist. And I'm going to give you an example from history like that. No, it's all right. All people are allowed in a church. But if you were in a state of mortal sin, most especially if you cause scandal from a political perspective, there is a canon that says that it has to be addressed publicly. And there have been cardinals, particularly Cardinal Raymond Burke in the United States, who have taken that stance that Joe has said, that you cannot receive the Eucharist, which is the body and blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. It is not a symbol. It is Christ. You are not permitted to receive. Now, how has this ever been, this has been used in the past, and I'm going to give you a good example. During the times of Jim Crow laws in New Orleans, I'm not going to get the people's names right, but I'm going to give you the instance. The governor of Louisiana basically would not abide by government rules which desegregated the schools. Mm-hmm. He said that the black students and the white students had to be separate. This was going against the law. This was in like the 50s. Mm-hmm. The Archbishop of New Orleans basically said, you are excommunicated. Guess what he did on his deathbed?
Repented?
He repented and recanted.
Mm-hmm.
That's what should happen.
Right.
If things are, when you take it to a degree and cause scandal, now I'm not telling people to, I'm just telling you what the church teaches. This is how it should be handled. And frankly, that's the only way that things get done.
Well,
you got to lay it down.
But you need a clear voice. You know what I'm saying? You need, in this case, you need Tobin to come out and say, make a statement like that. Now, again, we don't know whether or not Murphy even goes to church, okay? But the bottom line is he needs to make it clear, Governor Murphy, you're not going to do this. We'll fight you tooth and nail. We are the Roman Catholic Church, okay? We're not going to provide any of this under our insurance, and we're going to fight it all the way. Now, Murphy could be doing a couple things. Number one, he could be figuring in his mind, well, we know we're going to lose in court, just like in the Obama mandate, got up to the Supreme Court, the Little Sisters won, and don't worry, they're still trying to go after the Little Sisters, but nonetheless, he's trying to do that so it will cost the church money. Again, this is a anti-Catholic. I don't care if he calls himself a Catholic or if he's even baptized. He's an anti-Catholic bigot is what he is, and we'll get into some more of those later, okay? But that's what he is. When you attack the Catholic Church like this, but you're not attacking anybody else. This religious exemption, not saying, you could use the word religious, it's Catholic. That's who you're going after, okay? Tobin needs to come out along with the other bishops in the state of New Jersey and say, we're going to fight you tooth and nail, okay? And even now, again, my original point was, is it because he wants to cost the Catholic Church money? Well,
it's posturing.
And that's it. It's posturing. He's making it clear to his liberal left base in New Jersey, you see, I'll go up against those hateful Catholics. That's exactly what he's doing. It doesn't matter that who he's picking on are the people that are actually providing health services. What did you say a couple months ago in the radio show we did? When was it? A few months ago. How much money does the Catholic Church save? In this case, the state of New Jersey. St. Michael's, St. Barnabas, St. Peter's hospital system. All these hospitals. All these hospitals. Okay, that are providing services that are needed, yes, by a lot of poor people too, okay? You could take care of them all yourself, Governor Murphy, okay? But the Catholic Church does it at no cost to you, okay?
And let me be clear, these people in government, particularly in the Democratic Party, are at war with you. They have waged a war. This is a shot across the bow. And this is what this show is about. This is why we call it the front line. We are at war because they declared it.
Right.
It is time to stand up. It is time to stand up and say no. No. I'm not tolerant. And we're not talking about violence. Absolutely not. I have something better than violence. It's called the truth. No one could stand up against the truth. The truth, one person speaking the truth could stand up against the world. And it has been done. And his name is Jesus Christ. He did it. And we are all called to do it too. And that is exactly what has to be done. And until that happens, it's going to continue. We have to do it. And because, again, they have declared war on you. And this is just an example of it. And there's going to be many more as we continue with this show, even as we go on with this particular segment this evening. I mean, I don't know what else to do to wake people up.
Why don't people look at, let's say, when the left is caught cold busted? Remember we talked about it a few months ago when Podesta's emails got WikiLeaks and all that. You know what he admitted, and I thought it was very interesting. And I wish and pray and hope that the Catholic hierarchy in America would maybe look at this. The Democratic Party fears the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, but you know what they know? The Conference of Catholic Bishops isn't doing its job. But they do fear them, because if the Catholic Church in America turned around, now you'll get some nominal Catholics won't listen to them, but if the Catholic Church in America turned around on all these disgusting issues, okay, starting with abortion, starting with then right to transgenderism, okay, and all of this nonsense, okay, trying to make religious organizations, yes, primarily the Catholic Church, pay for things that that contradict our faith, okay. If the USCCB came out and made a clear statement to Catholics, said, you can't vote for these people. We're not telling you who to vote for. But if anybody's out there that's running for office supports any of this nonsense, you can't vote for them. And in the state of New Jersey, I wonder how many Catholics are in the state assembly and in the New Jersey State Senate. Are those Catholics going to have their feet held to the fire? Or is it going to be like Cardinal Dolan went on Fox and Friends, and I think it was Ainsley Earhart, who's not a Catholic, but she asked a great question. She said, she's Christian. She said, Cardinal, what about some people are calling for Andrew Cuomo to be excommunicated? Oh, we don't do that anymore. Going back to John Paul II. That's not true, Cardinal. That is not true, Your Eminence. Catholic Church does do it. It's supposed to do it. You don't do it is the problem. You don't excommunicate Andrew Cuomo. But Bishop Paprocki in Springfield, Illinois, or in Peoria, Illinois, he excommunicated, or he made it clear in a statement to Dick Durbin, told all the priests, don't give him the Eucharist.
He was doing his job.
All right, he was doing his job. The good Tobin, okay, I'm sorry, I know I'm being unfair, but I don't care. The good Tobin up in Rhode Island did the same thing.
He addressed Patrick Kennedy.
Right. So the thing is, don't say it doesn't happen, Cardinal Dolan. That's your way of trying to say that we can't do anything about it. You absolutely not only have the authority, you have the power, with you as a conference, to put the left so far back on its heels. The left, which abuses and lies to Roman Catholics, deceives Roman Catholics, and many, many other people on all these issues, to say, no, here's a clear statement, and by the way, this is what you cannot do. The left would go running for the hills.
I'm going to make a statement. There is no way a Catholic who receives the Eucharist can vote for a Democrat right now with the platform on abortion and same-sex marriage, particularly disgusting third trimester abortions, which is part of that platform. You cannot, in good conscience, do that. That's my statement. And that's not being judgmental. That is in line with Catholic teaching. Abortion and same-sex marriage, this came out by the bishops. They're called intrinsic evils. They are evil. They are evil. They're detrimental to a society. Same-sex marriage attacks the family. It basically says there is a replacement. It's something equal. Their sign, their flag, equal? No, it's not. That's not equal to a man and a woman in a marriage raising children. Give me a break.
Right.
And abortion is killing life. You have no other rights. You talk about rights. It's the fundamental right. You cannot call yourself a practicing Catholic and vote for this. Sorry. And if you disagree with me, I invite you to read the canons. Don't listen to some of this nonsense that comes out of some of these prelates' mouth, because frankly, they don't have courage, and they're political, and they don't want to make waves. look around. There are some who do, and there's some lay people who are willing to make waves. You got two of them right here.
That's right.
And we come on every single Sunday at 8 o'clock. So listen up. And I'm telling you something, which is the truth. Look up the canons. Look up in the back of every Catholic church in your missal, the back page. See what it says about receiving the Eucharist in a state of grace. It's in every single church in America.
Right.
So spare me the nonsense. And I hear it too much. It's time to start speaking up. And like Joe said, call them.
I'm calling tomorrow. I don't, like I said, I don't care if I don't get anywhere. But the fact is that they need to start the Cardinals in place now. And let's be clear. I know this sounds like a predominantly Catholic segment, and it is, mainly because Murphy's going after the Catholic Church with this. A lot of big concentration of Catholics in the state of New Jersey. The Archdiocese of Newark is one of the biggest archdioceses in the world.
One of the wealthiest.
All right, and one of the wealthiest, okay? But if you think that if, let's say, you're an evangelical or you're a Lutheran or any, let's say, for argument's sake, mainline Protestant churches, if you think you're a conservative Jewish organization that doesn't want to support this, just think in your head, just for a second.
You're next.
You're next. And if they do it to the Catholic Church, which should be difficult to do, what do you think they're going to do to you? Okay? They're gonna. This is one of the things that Joe and I talk about all the time. This is an example, like from the movie, from the novel 1984. This is an example of the state applying the boot to the human face. This is the state trying to crush something. In this case, it's Catholic Church being able to operate like the Catholic Church according to Catholic teaching. This is liberal intolerance, because like Joe said, we were talking about intolerance, because they're not tolerant of the fact that the church will not do certain things, okay? Is not going to provide certain services or whatever, if you want to call them services. I don't know how you call an abortion a service, but we're not doing it, not providing insurance for that, okay? And all you non-Catholics out there, you're going to need to step up with Joe and Joe, especially in the state of New Jersey now, okay, and really fight against this. Me, my voice might mean nothing. Maybe if Cardinal Tobin at the Archdiocese of Newark gets enough phone calls tomorrow morning and the next day and the next day, and some of these state assembly people and these state senators, they get a phone call at their office, hey, you're Roman Catholic, you can't vote for this. You know what? We're going to talk about a segment about what happened down in Virginia. If you think opening up your mouth doesn't do any good, we got a story coming up in a few minutes that'll show you, yes, raising your consciousness and then raising your voice actually gets something done. So yeah, Joe's talking about our next segment. We're going to go to Virginia. Our friend Ralph Northam is back in the front line.
Is that the guy that said, "Well, we're gonna let the baby sit on the table. We'll make it. He didn't call it baby. We'll make it as comfortable as we can, and then we'll decide on whether or not we're gonna kill that. We're gonna kill it or not." That's Northam.
And then they found out he wore blackface. Okay, it wasn't his comments, funny enough, on the baby dying on the table that got him in trouble. It was the blackface thing that got him in trouble. Killing kids, that's okay.
That was a college.
Right, it was but you know what I mean. But they dug that up. But yeah, so let's go to.
He's the governor of Virginia, and as Joe said, he was in the news in the past regarding children that survive abortions, whether or not they should be terminated, their lives should be terminated, and he was for that. And he's a medical doctor who now is the governor. He has a medical degree. Anyway, he recently appointed an anti-Catholic bigot to the State Council on Women's Issues. Her name is Gail Gordon Donegan. And I want to read you some tweets that she recently put out. This is, by the way, someone in government in the state of Virginia. I'm going to read them to you.
This is disgusting. I read this, and again, I know I get angry, Joe. I read this, and I really, the anger level, especially because, again, going back to, wait till you hear this, but the USCCB, so you say something about the Jews, the ADL, they're right on top of you. You say something about Muslims, CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relations,
but most of the
right on top of you.
All over.
They're all over it.
Picture this, if this was said
about anybody else.
About a Protestant, a Jewish person, or a Muslim. Replace Catholic with any of that, and now I'm going to read this. This is what she tweeted, and she is she's a state employee. Abortion is morally indefensible to Catholic priests because it results in fewer children to rape. Christmas is the one time of year the Catholic Church is allowed to focus on a little boy. Go tell a Catholic they have dirt on their forehead regarding to, obviously, Ash Wednesday. Saw a bumper sticker. You can't be both Catholic and pro-choice, something I just said. Added, you can be a pedophile, though. This is hatred. This is hate speech.
That's right.
Where is the media?
Right.
Where is the outrage?
Where's the ADL?
She still has a job, by the way.
Well, leave the ADL aside only because they are a Jewish organization. So you can't expect the Jews to police.
But they should. They should.
I know they have double standards, Joe. Let's just leave them aside. How about the Southern Poverty Law Center?
Okay.
They got a very famous hate list. Okay. That's not hatred, SPLC. That is not dripping with hatred of the Roman Catholic Church and Catholics in particular. Mockery, there was hatred there, and you people have nothing to say about it. I'm going to tell you something, Joe. We're going to explode one day, Joe and I. We're going to have one day, by the grace of God, by Almighty God, Joe and I are going to have some influence. And we're going to sue the balls off this SPLC and the Anti-Defamation League, okay, by the way, for libel, for everything that they say and everything they allow to be said about the Roman Catholic Church, but they always let like this, and they let it go by and never say anything about it. Okay,
here she
never.
is mocking Ash Wednesday. Now, however you feel about the priest scandal, and I have my opinions, and I'm just as disgusted as you, and I'm Catholic, and I'll speak about it, and I am disgusted. However, she says, go tell a Catholic they have dirt on their forehead. That is disgusting. And this person is employed by the state of Virginia, appointed by the governor. Why isn't she fired?
Well, he did. Well, the thing is, she's, I think, currently employed. The position she was up for was a position on a woman's council, yeah, something along those lines. He did with, wait a minute, no, that's right. That's what we were saying earlier. I apologize. Remember I said about once we raise our consciousness and then open our mouths, okay? He was Bill Donahue at the Catholic League, okay? Which does for the Catholic Church what the ADL does for the Jews, okay? He monitors all the media and all the government shenanigans when it comes to bigotry, anti-Catholic bigotry, okay? So Bill Donahue put pressure, all right, via his extensive email list, okay, and a lot of people emailed. I was one of them, okay. He'll provide a link with the person's email, and we sent it in. Say we want this woman's name withdrawn. Northam relented. He withdrew her name.
Well, there you go.
All right. So now what? He's going to probably replace her with another evil wench, okay. But nonetheless, at least for now, you know what it is? It's a victory. It's a victory. For those who say a lot of times we get demoralized, I'm not going to lie, I get demoralized, I get sad over this stuff, I get angry over it. I get more sad and demoralized than I do angry because I feel like nobody has our back. Like you're talking about Cardinal Tobin or Cardinal Dolan. Nobody's got our back. We're out here in the breach. We need some leadership. We don't really have it. We have a couple guys throughout the country, but not many, okay? But here's a guy, Bill Donahue, okay? Very bombastic guy, but nonetheless, he said it. He made it known. He put it out there, and this woman's name.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And we need more of that.
I didn't read that part.
Yeah, we need more of that. We need more of that. When they try to shame you, when they try to bully you, as we said in the past, don't let them do it. No, this woman has no place she's got no place in a state government at all. Okay, if you go by their standard, if you go by the standard of the left, when you say things that are racist, when you say things that are anti-Semitic, when you say things that are anti-woman, when you say things, of course, if you say things that are anti-gay or what is perceived to be of a liberal, straight up, with no reservations whatsoever, that person needs to lose their job. Okay? Well, guess what? We're employing your standard. I don't want that woman employed anywhere. Nowhere. Okay? If those are the views she holds. How's that? We'll employ the same standard you do. It's blatant anti-Catholic bigotry. We want her out of state government. Let her go work in the private sector.
I agree.
Let her go work. You see, if for 1 second, even the liberals in the private sector, okay, even the left, if a woman like, let's say a woman like that said some of that stuff at Google, which is leftist, Facebook,
They
all the
could
rest
care
of
less.
it. They no, but I think in the private sector, she'd get fired. She'd get fired.
I'd like to think it, but it's the last accepted prejudice. You could be at the water cooler and talk bad about a Christian. You could talk bad about a Catholic, particularly a Catholic, openly, and no one's going to say boo.
But if they push the issue, then even the corporations, because they would, because they fear anything on their bottom. Look, I'm not saying that they wouldn't, but in this case, let's say just straight up, out of government, no position in the Virginia Commonwealth whatsoever, none, no position for this anti-Catholic.
More hypocrisy that's just exhibited constantly.
Right.
And frankly, no one cares because it's not covered. And that's why we have the show. This is what we do. We bring you stories that are not covered by the mainstream media. And in hopes that we basically open up people's minds, open up people's awareness to what's going on, because this is what's going on in America, and it's only going to get worse if we don't stand up to it.
That's why we all have to get into this breach, like Joe and I are doing, and many, many other people are doing, at the front line with Joe and Joe, 8 o'clock, Sunday nights, Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, speaking the truth, no matter how angry we get, no matter how sometimes we even have a little fun around here. We crack a smile once in a while. Tonight's not about smiles. Tonight's about anger. Anger at liberal hypocrisy and double standards and bullying and pushing people around. Where are we going next, Joe Resinello?
So we're going to go to Vermont, the University of Vermont. Basically, the Trump administration this week warns the University of Vermont after it forced a nurse to help with an abortion, which went against her conscience. Obviously, we all know that religious liberty and conscience rights is something that the Trump administration has pushed from the very beginning. This nurse filed a conscience and religious discrimination complaint with the Office of Civil Rights. And the Trump administration basically stated to the university that they must comply with federal law or they will revoke their federal funds.
See?
So why should anybody, and this is the question, I guess, with this segment, why should anybody be forced to go against their conscience, particularly with something with regard to abortion, when it means keeping a job? Like, I have to go against my conscience in order to keep a job. Something as serious. This isn't like something slight. This is a life.
Right.
Why couldn't that nurse just be asked, okay, you don't feel that way? There's other nurses here who do. I'm not saying, like, she's not saying you can't do the abortion. She's not, all she's saying is, I do not want to participate with this. Right. Why can't you just say, listen, fine, Nancy, or whatever her name is, Mary, you are going to not do this, and we're going to bring Joanne in. She has no problem with it.
Right.
What is the problem with that? What is the problem with that?
Remember you said before about, we were talking about, let's say, projection. They project on others. One of the criticisms you'll hear from the left is when it comes to Islam, let's say, they'll say, well, theirs is a religion of convert or die. Convert or die. What difference? What's different with what you're doing? If you take someone's job away from them because they won't do in their conscience what you want them to do, if you take their job, you're killing them. You take a job away from a person and they can't feed themselves. I know I'm being a little extreme, but a job is how you feed yourself. It's how you stay off the street.
Sure.
Okay, it's how you don't freeze in the wintertime laying on a park bench in New York City, okay, because de Blasio's not helping you, okay? That's how you put food in your belly. That's how you keep a roof over your head. That's how you have clothes, all right? You need your job. So what's the difference between criticizing, let's say, the convert or die, let's say, view of radical Muslims, okay? This is the same thing. You will perform this abortion or you will be out of a job. That's the way it is, okay? And that's what they do. I said to you before.
This is the direction the country's going.
Right. No, listen, they make it clear.
Be very clear on that.
When they boycott a business, okay, because that business closes on Sunday because the business owners are Christian, they want that business to no longer be in business. When someone works for a corporation, especially somebody well-known, so if you're talking about, let's say, somebody in Hollywood or somebody in the media, and they express a view that just is not palatable to the left, that goes against everything they want that person to lose their job and not be able to get a job anywhere else, okay? This is convert or die. What you say, why don't they do this? Look, we started, I mean, this has become a more pronounced Catholic show, so let's just keep it going. You take, for argument's sake, what's the Catholic worldview? The Catholic worldview is you know, let's say the worldview applies. It's universal. That's what Catholic means. It applies to everybody. Not everybody's going to go along. Okay. God himself knows that, but we try to help argument through living our lives a certain way, leading by example, leading a Christian life. We hopefully people will convert, but not everybody will. Okay. And the church has always, because God himself has always allowed for free will. Okay. Free will. You have the right to choose. Who is more totalitarian in this case? Again, projection. They're always saying the Catholic Church is fascist and totalitarian. No, the Catholic Church will say, if you want to go to hell, that's where you'll go. Okay, we can't force you to believe in our ways or do anything we would like for you to do. How different are these people?
Well,
these people say, we'll drop the hammer on you if you don't fall in complete lockstep right down the line with everything we want you to do and believe.
And history has seen this in the past. We can go to Ireland. In Northern Ireland, Catholics were not employed. This is a fact. Catholics were not employed in Northern Ireland. We can go to Cuba. They allowed the Catholic Church, the state controls the food. Basically, if you are a practicing Catholic, from what I've heard from nuns in Cuba, your kids don't go to school. You don't get the same food rations. So you suffer. Again, Northern Ireland, you couldn't get a job. No one would hire you in Northern Ireland if you were Catholic. This is the direction it's going, people. Believe it. And this is, again, I sometimes wonder, everyone just sits there, they're like, they don't pay attention. This is the direction. Hillary Clinton, when she was going to be elected, and she was this close for being elected, like you mentioned, Podesta, there were emails that went back and forth. They were basically saying about Catholic dogma had to change. I mean, blatantly saying and admitting it. They're coming after you. And if you don't think so, you're either just not paying attention or your head's in the sand. They're going to make your life harder, or they're going to force you to do things you don't want to do. And you're going to make a choice.
Who's coming to our defense in this case? Donald Trump. Donald Trump is coming to the defense of this nurse at the University of Vermont and saying, we will cut off your federal funds if you do this again. Tell me again, all you never Trumpers out there who call yourself conservative, or you never Trumpers out there who call yourself Catholic, okay? The party that you say you would vote for, namely the Democrats, because you just hate Donald Trump, okay? That party would have forced this nurse and any other nurse to have to perform this abortion. That same party, all you liberal Catholics out there, okay, knows that very same party is the one in our earlier segment will force the Catholic Church to provide coverage for contraception, abortion, sterilization, and now, yes, say gender cosmetic surgery, gender reassignment, garbage.
And by the way,
and you vote for them.
And Obama did this, because we use this the example of the Little Sisters of the Poor, in case people who don't know what they do. They help indigent old people who can't afford a nursing home, who would probably die on the street.
Yeah.
They take them in and care for them at no cost.
Right.
Obama was trying to force them to pay with their insurance for abortifacients. And you know something? They had the guts to say no. Old nuns.
Yeah.
They said, no way. Tough.
Old
and they fought them and they won.
They fought them, they won. And Murphy can't, and Murphy is now picking that up. And now he's going to try to reimpose it. Obviously, he can't do it federally. He's trying to impose it on the state. University of Vermont. It's the same thing.
But here's the thing. And then we have 20% of this country are baptized Catholic. How could you support a party that would oppress your own?
Right.
You either are,
right,
or you don't care. I'm going to say it.
That's right.
Is the mic on? Oh, yeah, it is.
Right. You don't care. And Roseanne, I just want to say, so how come the hierarchy in Vermont didn't come to her assistance? Roseanne, they should have. The only thing is, I don't know if this nurse was Catholic, even if she wasn't, the Catholic Church in Vermont should have still had something to say about it. Okay? Again, I'm going to repeat, Donald Trump had something to say about it. So I want the libs in the Catholic Church to try to explain to me again why somehow I'm wrong and I'm deplorable, because I vote for a guy who actually does something to protect
conscience rights
and religious liberty.
Right.
Our own aren't even protecting it.
Right. Our own. They're not
get,
saying it. I can't tell you how many times I see on social media Catholics talking about, they don't even know what their faith teaches.
That's
they
right.
don't even know. I can't even believe it.
But
half of them are educated.
But
more than half.
Joe, here's the thing, though. And let's make it clear. Here's a clear statement to put a finer point on it from the front line with Joe and Joe. Donald Trump right now is more a defender of Roman Catholic laity in America than the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Try to excommunicate us, your eminences, for telling the truth about your lack of action, your lack of conviction, your lack of moral clarity, okay? That's right. Donald Trump has our backs more than you do.
There are people who do, but sadly, a lot of the voices are not being heard.
I was only talking about as a group. Yes, there are individuals like
And putting a message on your website doesn't cut.
Right, no. From loud like they do it. Like they do it loud. When they got something to say, they do it real loud. They go get their buddies at MSNBC and CNN. All right, they go get real loud.
Okay, we're going to go back to New York.
Do we have to?
Oh,
do we have to go back to New York?
Billy
I'm going to go to work in New York tomorrow.
Billy de Blasio's back in the front line with Joe and Joe. We talked about his wife regarding the statues in the beginning of the show. We're going to talk about the new Education Advisory Committee that Mr. de Blasio just started out. Basically, what they're insinuating with regard to education is merit is racist. Basically, and he said, and we will not allow it in the public schools. So what does that mean? I'm going to break this down for you.
I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry, because now this is where it becomes serious, but it's comical. Go ahead.
Okay. Basically, what they want to do is they want to stop using an academic criteria to screen applicants for admissions to public middle schools and phase out elementary gifted and talented programs that now require a test. So basically what they're trying to do is re-engineer how children are placed in classes. Let's be honest. The only way that you can gauge a student academically is a test.
Right.
That's just life. And here's another thing. When you try to do all these programs, basically what you're doing is trying to re-engineer a new class of society. But life pushes back on that. Because here's the deal. I work in the public sector. I work in corporate America for 2 decades. You put up or shut up when you work in public in corporate America. Right. You got to put out every day. You don't, you're fired. You're fired. That's not a joke. You are graded. I have 2 times a year I get reviewed. If I'm not doing well, bye.
Like you said, that's real life.
That's life.
Real life.
You're not preparing people properly when you do this. That's not how life works. Life works on merit. This is not a union. You're not giving someone a token job. In some unions you hear about that. Not all. I don't want to make a blanket statement, but I've heard stories, people who work in unions. But corporate America does not work that way when you're in the private sector. Mm-hmm. You're not preparing students for the world. There are no crying rooms in work.
And the meantime, there are no pretending to. They're pretending to be. They're pretending to say, or they actually say, but it's a lie that they're actually giving a kid, let's say, a leg up or some sort of a boost. Look, when you're, I mean, one of the things. Correct me if I'm wrong. When I was reading the article when you sent it to me, I'm reading it saying, you know what? One of the things that actually made me study some more and do better. I never did as well as I should. My father always told me that. But to do better and start studying more and start reading more was the fact that when I sat there and I saw all these other students doing well, I felt like crap. I was a young kid, okay? But in feeling like crap, you know what you do? You say, it pushes you. Yeah, it pushes you. And they can't stand that. They're all, like you mentioned, crying rooms and all that kind of stuff. There are no crying rooms, okay? But you're, like you said, you're not doing anybody any favors by this.
You're not.
What? Challenging students. Because yes, so first of all, I think you were going to get into it where there's all sorts of criteria, your life circumstances. Look, the education system already accounts for that. Sometimes a student needs another year in a grade. Okay, we all grew up with it.
That's okay.
We all grew up with the kid who got left behind.
But that's okay.
In other words, we didn't shun the guy. He was still our friend and everything else. A lot of kids got left behind. Okay, some skipped, some stayed in the class they were supposed to be. But education system already accounted for these things. Okay, and they try to teach each student the subject you're supposed to be teaching, and those who need more help get more help, okay? I remember it like it was yesterday. You know, well, I think we cut off again, which is a real pain in the ass.
We'll just reconnect.
Yes. Back to the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello. Sorry about that. I will make it my mission in life to find Zuckerberg and who's ever responsible for these technical things and kind of give him like one of those cartoon slaps a little bit. But anyway, the bottom line is this. Yes, when students don't do so well, you know, in their classes, it is a challenge to them to do better. And when they can't, they get extra help. I mean, we all had that. And, you know,
sure.
You know, all kids got extra help. When you needed it, and that was it. So anyway, but to call a merit-based system racist, I mean, what is he trying to get out of this? What is de Blasio doing with this?
Well, they're trying to re-engineer basically, I guess, life, you know. But again, life always pushes back. It doesn't work that way. Again, even if you get into the school, even if you get the job, you still have to perform in it. Because it comes down to, if you're not performing, you're going to be let go, because money is at stake. That's how life works. That's how business runs. You have to perform. As Joe said, there's also talks on the national level of having an adversity score in testing. I don't know how you possibly can accurately account for that. I don't. Well,
what is the assumption there that everybody who excels? I mean, I grew up with kids who were from some pretty crappy houses, okay? Divorced parents, worse neighborhoods than we were in, who were very, very smart.
Oh, I get it.
Okay? And then there were kids that were from the suburbs and made a lot more, and their parents made a lot more money than my mother and father, your mother and father, all right? And then they were knuckleheads.
Or they're mediocre.
So what do you mean adversity score? And here's the thing. What do you do with the kid? Because let's face it, Asians are getting... This is very unfair. Go ahead, talk about that.
I said basically I think it's specifically New York. Like there's been like I think it's actually documented that they're putting a lot of the Asians who score particularly high on tests aside.
Yeah,
they're not choosing them. And
is it fair to them?
But what about the kid that tries hard and gets good grades? Why should he or she not get the spot? For somebody under what criteria? What's an adversity score? What is that? How do you possibly gauge that? How?
Well, underlying this also is a very well-known communist idea, which is from each according to his ability to each according to his need. That's what this is. This is simple redistribution. You guys do too well. You're going to have to get penalized for now, either because you're from your parents are Asian, or you're Asian, or your skin is white. Joe and I said before, we really don't know what that means. We are Roman Catholic Americans of Italian descent. I am not a white man, okay? But nonetheless, those whose skin is white, you get pushed aside. And let's face it, some minorities are going to get hurt too. In other words, this is, you know, with this whole adversity. What about, and again, what about the black kid who's kicking butt? Okay, the black kid who's doing phenomenally well in his classes, and then he sees another kid, you know, who might also happen to be black, and he's getting advanced like him. In the meantime, he's a slacker. He doesn't work as hard. In other words, you know, and all because his mother and father are divorced. A lot of people excel in the world with all sorts of adversity. It's called working hard, working your way through it. Yes, when you're young, you need teachers and guidance counselors and all that to help you through. Nobody's saying you don't need help, okay? But this whole adversity thing.
Well, merit, also just the idea merit is racist. Scores don't mean anything.
Or accomplishments don't mean anything?
Frankly, I'll be honest with you. Scores and merit means a lot to me. If I'm going to hire somebody at work, I want to make sure they know how to do what they have to do. I don't care if they're black. I don't care if they're Catholic. I don't care if they're religious. I don't care if they're whatever.
Right.
Jewish. I don't care what they are. Woman, gay. I need you to do the job.
Right.
If you can't do the job, I can't have you there. That's the way the world works.
But as we've said a million times, once kids go through this program, if you want to call it that, this thing that de Blasio is doing, and others like him, once they go through that, you know what happens? Like you said, life's going to hit them right in the face. And what do? When they have no other recourse, when they weren't trained properly, they weren't educated properly, then they start blaming. It's because you're racist. It's because you hate women. It's because you hate black people. It's because you hate Hispanics. No, the educators and the politicians who kept those educators in place, the ones who did not educate you, if you want to blame anybody, go blame them. Don't blame Joe and Joe. Don't blame Donald Trump. Don't blame the Catholic Church. Don't blame anybody. Go blame them. And blame yourself and your parents because you listened to them. When others were out there for a very long time saying exactly what Joe and I are saying right now, merit means something, and you listened to them when they said, because it's not new, it's just this is the newest manifestation of it with de Blasio, but it's always been the same thing. What do you mean merit-based? Isn't that just really racist? No, I mean, Dr. Ben Carson said in one of the debates during the presidential election, he goes, well, I'm the only one on the stage who separated the separated Siamese twins successfully. you know what I mean? So anyway, it's like one of those things. It's like merit means nothing. Working hard means nothing. Excelling means nothing. Because at the end of the day, Joe, it's unfair.
Well, life is unfair.
It's unfair.
And I got news for you. You're in for a rude awakening.
But I would tell de Blasio and his wife, you know what else is unfair? Not putting a statue up of Mother Cabrini in front of the UBS building on 6th Avenue in New York City and putting a statue of Oprah Winfrey alongside of everybody else here.
She is spiritual, though.
Oh, great. Spiritual. Well, let's talk about that. Let's segue. Well, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe, Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. This has been a rather religious show tonight. So let's get it. Oprah's spiritual. She doesn't need the church. Okay. So Joe dug up something that I found pretty interesting. I think our audience might find interesting. At the front line with Joe and Joe, Sunday nights, 8 o'clock. What do we got?
Well, again, I apologize for the show getting cut off. Sadly, our internet connection broke. This is part 2 of the same show. Jonathan, I know you're listening. We're just going to have to do a little editing. You're going to have to do your math.
Do your thing, pal.
I know. There's our Canadian friend. He kind of does a lot for us, and we thank him.
Yes, Jonathan,
and please check out HolyFaith Media. They're out of Canada. He does some producing for us, and he makes our stuff look really good. And I want to thank him publicly for it. Going into our last segment, we found something this week that said 2/3 of U.S. Christians, now these are all Christians, this is not Catholics, this is Christians across the board, feel that they don't have to attend church. I'm going to just address this in one word. Wrong. Wrong. We're supposed to honor the Sabbath. This is part of being Christian. That came out of Christ's mouth. You're supposed to honor the Sabbath. Also, by the way, when you don't go to church, it leads to unbelief and isolation. I'm going to give you an analogy. If you have a fire, okay, and there's coals in the fire, if I take one coal and I put it over here and all the other coals are burning, what happens to that coal? It goes out. It goes out. That's what happens. Now, that's as far as being a Catholic. I go to church to receive the sacraments. That's why I'm Catholic. It's the only thing that well, 2 things that keep me Catholic. Jesus Christ founded one church on St. Peter, and he established the sacraments, and I go to receive them. So I have to be there. Plus, if you're Catholic and you don't go to church, I'm going to give you a little catechism lesson. It's a mortal sin. It's a mortal sin. Do they still say that? Well, no. I am. It's a mortal sin. You have to go to church. It's in the catechism.
Think about, I'm not diminishing what you're saying because what you're saying is absolutely correct. Okay. Think about this though. You don't go to church. Let's say you're evangelical. Okay. A lot of evangelicals in America, right? And this is not going to be a criticism. I'm going to preface it by saying it's not a criticism. Many evangelicals go to church. I don't agree with the evangelicals' denomination, okay? Obviously, as a Roman Catholic, okay? However, when you do go to church, let's just talk about in the temporal realm for a second. Yes, the grace of the sacraments, that is the paramount importance. But how are your kids when you have children? In other words, when you're in church, church-going kids tend to be friendly with other church-going kids. They see other mothers and fathers bringing their kids to church. That's where they go, and they do. Again, we don't agree with it, but they do at the very least, you have to say, they are praying to God, okay, in their church services, okay? They read scripture, so they're getting a lesson, again, for their children, okay? To hear this, remember, see, that's the thing. It's one thing, now, especially a lot of people who think it's just me, Jesus, in the Bible, okay? But in the Bible, it says faith comes from hearing. Doesn't say faith comes from reading. And where do you hear the faith? You hear it in church. Okay, that's where you have to go. Okay, where yes, I don't like the overemphasis on community sometimes, but that the communal aspect of going to church is very important.
It strengthens you. But I'm going to go just to kind of talk a little bit about what Joe just talked about with regarding your kids. Not going to church with your children deprives them of their faith. And studies have said so. I'm going to give you a study from Harvard. It's a sociologist from Harvard. This is what he said. His name is Robert Putnam. He wrote a book, and in his book, he basically said, children who regularly attend church are less prone to substance abuse, risky behavior, and delinquency. Those children who do go to church take tougher courses, get higher grades, and are less likely to drop out of high school. That's at the minimum, and that's at the temporal realm.
Right.
Children do what they see, not what you tell them. We take our kids, I have 3 kids, we go to church every single week with them, and it's a war. It's a war. Who's walking in? Who's walking out? This one's crying, and this one's out. But we do it. You know why? Because I'm Catholic, and I made the promise when I baptized them. The priest said it, and I said it. I also made the promise when I was married, a vow. You know, vow, you get it? A vow before God. You will raise your kids in the Catholic Church. That means at the minimum taking them to church. And it's the greatest and most important thing you can tell your kids and teach them, because it will guide every single one of their decisions, who they marry, what they do with their money, how they will live, how they will treat people.
Right. It forms
It is
them.
the most important thing you can do. And also for yourself, because I'm going to tell you a little secret. We are all flawed people. This is something that people haven't figured out for 2,000 years. And we need God. Every single one of us need God. Christ is Savior. He's the Savior. He came into the world because we are flawed. And he established a church, which is not a museum for saints. It is a hospital for sinners. And we go to church to receive grace. And how do we receive grace? We go to confession. And then we receive the Eucharist. And then we pray. And then it elevates the way you live. That doesn't mean you're going to be perfect, but it means that you will do what Christ asked of you. And when you fall, you will say you're sorry, you will get back up, and you will go again, and you receive grace. Why? Because we're sinners, and we need it.
Thing is, too, why are we so vulnerable? Yes, it's even like you said, one of the most important things about attending Mass, spoke specifically about being Catholic, attending Mass and receiving that grace is that grace enables you to have your eyes open. That's
Correct.
What grace does.
Sin diminishes your vision.
It dulls it.
And it dulls your intellect.
Let me tell you something. I had a very dull intellect for 20 years. Okay, and we are sinners, all of us. I didn't mean to imply that I'm not a sinner. But in other words, when I wasn't going to church, or I thought in my mind, well, God forgives me, because that's really that attitude. That's why you have a lot of people that they say, well, I love Jesus, or I love God. Okay, or the one I heard recently was, doesn't everybody just worship God the way they want to?
No,
actually, I don't know what God you're talking about.
Christ did not do that.
You know,
Christ did not do that. He said, I will do the Father's will.
Right.
You see, this whole idea that I'm spiritual but not religious, what the heck does that mean?
I don't know what spiritual means.
What does that mean? Spiritual, where does it come from? Does it come from the air? Does it come from a stone? My spirituality comes from a man. It comes from a man, Jesus Christ. And I receive him in the Eucharist as a Catholic. And as a Catholic, you have to go to Mass. And if you don't, you have to confess that before you receive again. I'm just telling you what the Catechism says. And just because people don't say it doesn't mean it's not legit. I'm telling you what it teaches.
Well, if you waited for some of the current, the current hierarchy to say some of these things, you'll be waiting a long time. But it is nonetheless Catholic teaching. Okay, but that whole idea of spirituality, I remember one time there's a clip that goes around on YouTube or whatever, where Oprah's telling that little troll, what's his name? Eckhart Tolle, whatever his name. He's got the beard. And he looks like this, and he's talking. I think he's got like a German accent or something, you know, Northern European or something. And they're going back and forth because that's her guru. Eckhart Tolle's like her guru. It's her spiritual guide. She pushed him on all the white middle class women out there through all the years of her show. And it's this whole idea. She said, well, I don't think that Jesus Christ came to establish a church. Now, obviously, that makes our brains explode. However,
he said it right out of his mouth.
He said it right out of his mouth, right? But it's the whole idea of he's just a model. Now, again, it's this whole relativizing of religion. All religions are equally valid, but then the flip side to that means that all religions, see, two competing ideas can't equally be true and false at the same time. You can't have two opposing statements. You know, it's the law of non-contradiction. Okay, either the Catholic Church is right or the atheists are right. Somebody's right, somebody's wrong. Of course, atheists would say, well, we're right and you're wrong, and the Catholic Church would say the reverse. But this spiritualism is a little bit more kind of nefarious, because that's what this is. All right, when you say I could be spiritual, that means that all that means is that you're at peace with any despicable act you want to commit. And most of the time, what does it come down to?
Peace
no, I know, but again, talking in the breach here for 1 second, as far as trying to battle this cultural rot we're dealing with, what does it usually come down to? Sexual matters. That's what it comes. So whether it comes down to abortion or any other thing, or transgenderism, or homosexuality, or lesbianism, or any of it, but I'm at peace with it. And my spirituality says that that's the way it should be.
Based upon who?
And then they put, no, exactly. Well, then it gets into the whole thing, what are you talking about? Then you got other idiots like Deepak Chopra says that, well, the universe is God, and God is the universe. It's like, did you even take Logic 101 when you went to college, or did you go to college? But that's what this all is, because what it is, it's the same way religion has been perverted over a long period of time. In other ways, it's a matter of, I want God in my life, but I want God on my terms. That's what it comes down to. That's what all this I don't need to go to church means, because church, even in Protestant churches, not all of them, a lot of the mainline Protestant churches are way off the liberal deep end. But I'm talking about conservative Protestant churches, many evangelicals. You're still going to go there and hear that you can't do certain things. Well, you can't. Let's say abortion. Yes, that's exactly the right word. You're held accountable. You're held accountable for your actions, whether it comes directly from Scripture in the case of evangelical sola scriptura, or from the church and the hierarchy of the church. And people just don't want to hear it. They want to say that they're loving, good people, and of course they love God. I love God. I love God.
But don't tell me
what to do, God.
Don't tell me how to live my life. Don't tell me how to spend my money. Don't tell me what to do in my bedroom. Don't tell me a damn thing.
Right.
And God doesn't. I'm not God. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I'm not making myself out to be, but I know one thing. It doesn't work that way.
Nope.
Doesn't work that way. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. And we're going to stand in front of God. Every single one of us. And here's the beautiful thing about it. God meets you where you are, and he loves you. He loves you so much, he says, I'm going to help you change. I'm going to help you change, and you need the church for that. You need the sacraments for that. I would not be who I am if I didn't have the Catholic Church. I would not be married. I would not have 3 children. I would not.
But it's called, but that's called, you know, what you obviously where you're at is a spiritual maturity. But let's focus on this for a second. Let's focus on this for a second. Joe Campo, Joe, what's happening? Big shout out, Joe Campo over in Brooklyn says spirituality is new age. Okay. Well, again, this is the front line with Joe and Joe. This particular show happened to get more into religion, but let's talk about it because it does pertain. Religion and culture, a lot of the times are of course, right, is the new age. Joe Campo, what are we living in? What is this essentially? This I don't need church. In other words, to be in touch with God. It's neo-paganism. That's what New Ageism is. That's what this neo-spirituality.
Look at the tattoos that you see.
Right,
around.
they're all pagan
symbols.
And another thing, look at what they worship. Look at what they worship. Do they work? They say they worship God, but do they? What they worship is they worship the environment. They worship the earth. They worship the universe. That's paganism. Okay, that's all that is. The pagans, if you remember the Romans, let's say, they had a god for everything. Okay, the Romans had God, the god of the trees, the god of the sky, the god of the sea, the god of the, they even had God, the god of the door hinges. I mean, that's a, you know, this is all this is now. And what does paganism allow you to do? Any freaking thing your heart desires. Pagan religion, and it is religion, okay? Pagan religion says there's a higher being, you could be in touch with it. And usually it involves, by the way, Jesse Ramirez said this recently. I saw him on
he's a radio
show, Terry and Jesse. He said this recently.
Show.
This New Ageism, this neo-paganism, okay, I think he called it neo-paganism, always involves sex, drugs, alcohol, and human sacrifice, or sacrifice of some kind, okay? And a lot of times it involves abortion, okay, as that human sacrifice. He said that's what it always involves. So that's really what this I could believe in God without the church nonsense. If it's not there in the individual that says it at that moment, it will devolve into that.
And I'm going to tell you this, you know, I'm not judging you. I'm just telling you
the truth.
No, but the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Now, I'm also telling you what, as a Catholic, what the church teaches. I'm also telling you, even if you're not Catholic and you're going to church, it'll improve your life. It will improve your life. And here's what I say to people. You don't agree with me? Take a look outside your window. How you doing? How's the world doing?
Everything we talk about.
How's it doing?
Everything.
Does it look good?
Everything we talk
about. Does it look good?
About.
Is this I don't go to church, I don't believe in God business working? Is it working? Are people happy? Take a look at them. Look right out your window. Look in your neighborhood.
You work in New York City.
Please,
you're going to honestly say that people are
I'm
happy?
just telling you. I'm telling you the truth. That's what we do here. We tell you the truth. God brings joy. God brings peace. God also gives you grace to live a good life, to be the people you're called to be. And when you don't have that in your heart, something's missing. Tell yourself whatever you want to tell yourself. You're listening to my voice, you think I'm wrong, tell yourself whatever you want to tell yourself. Talk to me when you wake up in the middle of the night and you stare at the ceiling at 3 o'clock in the morning. Say it. I don't want to hear it. I've been there, done that. I'm telling you the truth. We need God. This country was founded on God. Every single state, in the preamble of all 50 states, the first sentence, there's the word God. We all need him. Jesus Christ, as Christians, we're Christian Catholics. He came to save us. He didn't make us perfect because we're not perfect. But life, as we walk in our faith, we become better and better through the grace of God. And we do good. And we're good for society. It's good for society.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing that is really, when you look, you made a good point. When you talk about just go look out your window, okay, and you wonder what's going on. We said it a million times, maybe not this in depth in past shows, is the absence of God, showing God the door and everything else. I want to point out something that E. Michael Jones said over at Culture Wars magazine. I thought it pertains to what we're talking about, right? He's really driving home the idea of Logos. So he's coming out with a new book.
Tell everyone what that is.
The Logos is, and I've learned this. I've learned this from my own reading, but primarily from E. Michael Jones at Culture Wars magazine. Logos is a Greek word, okay, and it means many, many things. It's a philosophical term. It's not just a word. It means a lot. Some of the things it means is, yes, it means word.
It means no word.
It means truth, okay. It means social order, natural law, moral law, natural reason, rationality. Logos means all these things. Now, Logos, let's keep it outside the Catholic Church for a second. Inside the Catholic Church, the church is very clear because Scripture is very clear. In the beginning was Logos, and the Logos was God, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos became flesh and dwelt among us. That's St. John's Gospel, okay? Now, here's the thing. What does that mean? People say, Joe, why are you bringing it up? Because without Logos, and this is what Joe's talking about, Logos, okay, the social order, the moral order, the natural law, okay, the truth. What you get is what Joe just referred to when he said, go look out your window. Or every one of our past shows, when you say, go look at San Francisco, go look at Los Angeles, go look, as we said earlier tonight, at Chicago. What that is a breakdown in Logos, okay? Because society, morality, the natural law are all breaking down. Family is part of the natural law and societal structure, essential to it, as a matter of fact. All broken down. Why these kids? We started the show talking about kids killing themselves in Chicago because there's no Logos. And why? Let's get back to this segment for a second. Why? Now, Joe and I have always said, and we will always say, we don't mean to cheese off any of our Protestant brothers and sisters, but to drive this point home, the Catholic Church is the vehicle of Logos in human history. It always has been. It always will be. Because the church, okay, and even if you're not in the Catholic Church, but you're listening to the Logos, it is the Logos that elevates human beings above the animals, okay? And what we have now is when it breaks down, look again out your window. You're looking at people that are acting like animals. Mothers that kill their babies in the womb. That's an example of somebody who's morally sound, okay? That has any kind of moral compass. It's, again, one more time, it's the breakdown of Logos, okay? And his book's coming out, and when it does, I want to try to get an interview with him. We will get an interview with him to talk more about it, because that is the concept that's missing. And again, pertaining to this particular segment, and when you're not going to church, when you're not listening, when you're not opening your ears, when you're not around people who live according to that Logos, okay, then guess what happens? Eventually your faith, like Joe mentioned earlier, your faith will disintegrate and your kids won't have any faith to begin with. They'll just see his daddy, little juniors looking at daddy, reading some book on the couch. The kid doesn't know that you're reading the Bible. You're not teaching the kid the Bible, and the kid's going to grow up without any faith. And that's how it spirals.
They're going to make bad decisions.
Right, right.
They're going to make bad decisions. The Bible, what did I've heard said? Basic instruction for basic instruction before leaving Earth. There we go. I mean, like this is. I'm just telling you the truth. I am Catholic. I go to church to receive the sacraments. I look at the sacraments as medicine. It's medicine for the world. It's not going to make you perfect. It is going to make you better.
Right.
And I'm telling you, and if you don't believe me, look around. Now you could say, oh, there's problems in the church. Oh, yes. The church is made up of saints and sinners. For every one bad one, I'll give you 3 good ones. I'll tell you right now, I'll give you 3 good ones that are operating right now. So don't make excuses. I don't want to hear it. I'm telling you the truth. We are a country founded by God, and we need God. And God is a gentleman. And if you ask him to leave, he will. And then there are consequences. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it.
But if you ask him to come back,
he will as well.
He will as well.
And all you have to say, oh my goodness, it's so simple. I'm sorry. How wonderful. And I'm going to change. And here's the good news. He'll help you do it. He'll help you do it. Well, and you go every day. That's why you call it, I'm a practicing Catholic. I didn't get it perfect yet, but I'm practicing every day, just like an athlete. Practices every day, lifts weights, runs. Well, I pray the rosary every day with my wife. I go to church every day. Doesn't make me better than you. It makes me happy. It gives me peace. And I go to confession every week, every Saturday, before I go to Mass on Sunday. Opens myself up to the grace of God. I have peace. It holds me accountable. It helps me to build a virtue, which helps my family life, and it helps society. These are good things. We got to bring them back.
Well, society needs them. Society needs, look, I don't care what anybody says, society, all human beings, we all need rules. Nobody likes to look at them as, acknowledge them. Nobody likes to talk about rules anymore. You know what? Rules are the only way the game works. Without rules, it's chaos. All right? And we see, because the front line with Joe and Joe are in the breach, we are in the breach every Sunday night, and everything we talk about is a breakdown of the rules or a discarding of the rules. I don't need those rules. I'm doing just fine on my own. Okay? Right. But when you're all alone and you've destroyed your life and the lives of others, okay, remember one thing. The one place in your despair that you will always be able to go back to is the Catholic Church. And that is the truth. Okay? So we turned around. I mean, we started talking about politics tonight.
Well, it went in a couple different directions.
But hey, you want to know something? Joe, this is not an overtly Catholic program, but then by the same token, when you can't help but get on these things sometimes, especially since we're under attack now. Murphy is attacked. Obama did. Now Murphy's attacking us, and we're talking about the fact that people don't even want to go to church, but yet we're being lectured to by people who don't go to church, who criticize us for going. I mean, this is what we're dealing with, and what does it do? It all creates this chaos that we're dealing with now. So tonight it's Catholic Joe and Joe.
Well, it happens.
It happens, but hey, listen, at the end of the day, that's the battle we're fighting. It is truth versus anti-truth, and truth is synonymous with Christ, and it's either Christ or anti-Christ. And what we're seeing now in this culture, between pornography and everything else, and all the stuff that's being promoted, is exactly that. So,
and here's another thing: if you disagree with anything we said, please post your comments.
The video will be up all week.
Also, learn about your faith. Read about it. See all these books I read on the bus, on the train, for 20 years. That's how I learned about my faith. I read about it. There are 2,000 years of people writing. There's so much information at your fingertips. Learn what the faith teaches. Your life will be better for it.
That's
I'm
right.
telling you right now, my friends, if you don't believe me, like I said, take a look out your window. Tell me how you're doing.
And if you want to disagree, the video is going to be up all week. Jonathan Ross up in Canada, he'll put the videos together for us, and then he'll take it. We'll post it as one video, because we did get broken off in the middle. But we want to thank you, all of you, for joining the conversation tonight at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, every Sunday night at 8 o'clock on Facebook Live. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. We want to thank everybody who supports us. All the people: Sue, Lou, Jonathan, the two Lou's joined, Joe Campo over in Brooklyn, Jonathan Ross up in Canada, also on Arana Nation up in Canada. So we really appreciate it. And Joe, these conversations have to be had. Why?
Because they're your conversations, and they're happening everywhere. Thank you for joining, and please join us every Sunday at 8 o'clock. Have a good week, everyone.
Peace.